Barsick, good day to you, sir, or ma'am, or whatever you want to be called. 1,000 Pine points for being here first, waiting for the call from your friendly neighborhood PineCreek. Matt White. Oh, no. Matt White. What an unfortunate last name given the topic of today's live stream. You'll know what I'm going to talk about soon. 500 Pine points to you. And Kali. It sounds like a soccer announcer, football announcer. Yo, yes, 250 Pine points for you. There's so much fun to do. This is why I want to continue to live on planet Earth, because I wasn't sure if I should talk about this guy, Phil Hopper. I found him today. I looked up who's the biggest pastor or churches in the United States, and for some reason, this guy has avoided my radar. What's the name of his church? Something Life. I don't know. And so, what do I do that? And then I saw this on Twitter, and this got my juices flowing. Good juices. Maybe not so good for John and Joe. By the way, I tweeted Jon Steingard and Joe Luehmann. And if you guys want to join me and defend yourself before we run out of time, you can type this in your browser, and we can talk face to face. And then, of course, it's like Friday, and Mike Winger is always doing questions, and I love answering questions for Christians before they answer them. But I just don't know what to do. So I decided I'd do this one, but maybe I'll switch, and I'll probably lose 4 subscribers from this video, but that's okay. I'm not in it for the subscribers. I'm in it for the love, for the joy, for the hope, meaning, and purpose. Okay, I'm going to give you the headline answer here. So many times I see Christians deconverting, and they swap out their former religion for a new one. Now, I got to reflect upon myself. Do I do that? What's my religion? My religion is the PineCreek YouTube channel, but is that really a religion? Maybe my religion is sometimes making apologists and pastors and preachers look foolish. Is that a religion? Maybe. Or maybe since Satan is in the corner there, my new religion is Satanism. I don't know. But I fear for guys like Jon Steingard and this woman named Joe Luehmann that they both, I think, have deconstructed from at least typical Christianity, traditional Christianity, or maybe their former Christianity, however you want to put it. And I fear that maybe not in John's case, but in Joe's case, she's just replaced it with a new type of religion. And she didn't come out and say this, but I think it's the new religion's called critical race theory. She said a few key words like oppression and what's the other keyword? Equity. And I'll let you know my bias right now. My bias is that whenever you hear anything about critical race theory, what that means is give me money. Life's not fair. Give me money. How's that? That's probably, yeah. That's how I view it. So, let's get started on this and see how far I get. I'm going to try to be nice and kind and caring and compassionate, show empathy. And Joe, if you're listening, don't be scared of me. I'm a great guy. Oh, man. Like, once you get to know me, people just love PineCreek. But I'm an immigrant, just like Joe is to the United States. When you think of an immigrant, what's the first thing you think about? You think about me, right? Guy with a mustache, beautiful, thick blonde hair. No, you don't think about that, do you? Okay, here we go.
That just screamed the white supremacy issue. I mean,
Okay, a little background. They're playing this because of what happened at the Capitol the other day. While I was live streaming, I was totally unaware, and it was happening while I was live streaming yesterday. Was it the day before? The week's going by so fast.
I saw some things for sure, but I would love to know what jumped out at you.
Yeah. Well, there is the biggest thing is entitlement, right? This entitlement that you see, that this is our building, this is our democracy.
They're talking about the White House.
This is, we have the right here, even though there is no evidence, there is nothing about the elections that has suggested that there was widespread systemic fraud.
I agree.
But this entitlement that we are right just because we say so, that is all rooted in white supremacy and Christianity.
That's all, we're right because we say so. That's all rooted in white supremacy. Can it be rooted in something else? I think so. We're right because we said so. That can be rooted in other things, not just white supremacy, but let's go on.
Fuels all of that because Christianity believes if God told me, then I am right? Regardless of whatever reason is actually pointing to, regardless, it's no, God told us. And so you hear all of these pastors and all of these leaders.
Oh, by the way, I did a little due diligence on Joe Luehmann. This is her husband. And I'm guessing her husband's name is Luehmann, and she took his name. Luehmann. It's a great Dutch or maybe German name, is it? Isn't it? You know what's funny about all this is that Joe and her husband are very much like my wife and me. I'm Dutch German. He's Dutch German. She's a little dark. She has more melanin in her skin. My wife has more melanin in her skin. She deconstructed from Christianity to maybe a different version, but I definitely deconstructed. My wife married a man, and now she's married to a different man. This guy married a woman, and now he's married to a different woman. I listened to this at 2x. It's only 24 minutes long. But there was like uncanny a number of similarities. I say that just to build rapport with Joe if she ever sees this.
And all of these prophets saying that they heard from God, that Trump is sent from God, that God is doing something in this nation right now, and that Trump will win the election. And when things don't pan out that way, you have two options: double down on the toxicity that you've been spewing, or apologize and admit that something is wrong and take a look within.
Now, I wonder what percentage of people who call themselves Republican, voted for Trump, say that we know Trump's going to win because God told us. Yes, there's a lot of people who talk like that, but is it even close to the majority? I truly don't know the answer to that. Well, I could guess though. 67% of the United States are Christian. Probably a slight majority of those Christians, well, maybe 60% of those Christians vote Republican. 40, well, I'm not even sure about that. But let's say it's 60-40 split. So of that 60%, of the 67%, 25% are evangelicals. That would probably say the things that Joe is talking about. So what's 25% of 60% of 67%? That's a low percent, right? 36. I just did quickly in my head. I'm thinking 18%. So at best, that what she's talking about represents maybe 18% of the United States, which is still a lot of people, don't get me wrong.
And the healthy thing to do is take a look within and say, okay, how did I end up being so way off with all these people that are telling me? Because see, I keep hearing people say also, we could have never known this was going to happen. No, we knew. We've been telling you.
We knew. Isn't that interesting? We knew this was going to happen, just like the evangelical Trump supporters knew that he would become president. No, you didn't know. Just like the Trump supporters didn't know. Although you can, I guess, predict and have a good guess. And I'm using no in the strict sense, like being 95% or more confident.
You know, a lot of us have been telling you, all of this rhetoric, all of these narratives, they are going to end up harming people. And you are fueling a fire. There is a concept that is called white backlash.
By the way, I did, just for fun, the transcript is up for this video. And I brought it up. I go Control F for find, and I typed in the word white. 74 instances. I typed the color black. 10. Let's type in the word colored. 7. So most of this video is talking about people with light skin, I think.
some other people call it white rage, white backlash or white rage. And it's this response that white supremacy has when it starts to lose power. So, if you look through history.
She brings up power. So this is a key word for critical race theory: power, oppression. What is the current power? Who holds power in the United States right now? I actually looked that up because it's an interesting question. Like when we're talking about skin shades, because apparently skin shade is very important to a lot of people. That's not it. Where is it? Here it is. This is Pew Poll. So it's going up. This is the growing racial and ethnic diversity in Congress. Hey, thank you, Tony D, for the donation. You've been very nice to the PineCreek channels. Satan's very proud of you. Shark Week, now PineCreek Week. I want some Pine Points. Oh, sorry, Tony, you can't buy Pine Points. This is not Christianity where I have grace and just give things away for free. Thank you, Jay Ritchie, for the donation. Very generous. When you make your identity dependent on a brand and that brand does horrible things, it causes cognitive dissonance. You can change how you think, which is hard, or you can deny, you can hide. I agree with that. But thank you for the donation. So here's the racial diversity, and I looked this up because I wanted to see, is the power of the United States equivalent to, is it reflecting the general population of people with dark skin, median skin, people who come from, let's say, Eastern Asian descent or South American descent or Central America descent and so forth? And it is. If you don't believe me, go to pewresearch.org. I put this in the link later. Actually, there's one little catch. It looks like we need more Asians. Asians are a little low. And maybe a few more Hispanics. So if we want to get the power to reflect the people, we need to work on that. More Asians. And see, even just talking this way, doesn't it sound dirty? Like, yeah, it just sounds dirty to me to even talk this way. But here we are talking about it.
History, every time that there has been movement towards the equity, especially when we were talking about racial equity, there is this.
That's a key word, equity. Whenever you hear equity, that's a buzzword. Equity is to critical race theory as grace is to Christianity. It's similar to equality, but even worse. No, equality is a good word, better word than equity. Equity is that everybody should be equal. But here's surprise, surprise. Not everybody's equal. Me and Brad Pitt, in terms of good looks, not equal. Me and LeBron James in terms of height, not equal. Me and Einstein in terms of intelligence, not equal. I wish I had good-looking privilege. I wish I had height privilege, but I don't. All I have is mustache privilege.
Is white backlash. So when slavery was abolished, because it wasn't, we have the 13th Amendment.
Slavery wasn't abolished? Oh, I know where this is going, yeah.
And the beginning of the prison system. That is backlash. That is white backlash. That is saying,
Isn't there more white people in prison than people with darker skin shades?
You're gaining some rights, but we won't let you have all the rights that you deserve. And we will make sure to remind you that we are still on top, that we are still superior, and that you are still supposed to serve us.
Yeah, what is worse? White supremacy or non-white feeling of being inferior? Inferiority. That's a hard word for me to say. Inferiority. What is worse? To feel that you have supremacy over someone, or to feel that you have inferiority under someone? I'm here to propose something crazy, that they're equally as bad. There's equity for you. To think you're superior over someone is bad. Actually, not always. Yeah, of course, not always. like I'm superior in one sense to someone like a pedophile. I have moral superiority over a pedophile. I'll make that claim. But I digress. I think it's just as bad to think that your skin tone or your race, in quotes, is inferior to another. I have a feeling Joe would agree with me here.
So, and through history, you see that, Martin Luther King is murdered because of white backlash, because of white rage, because he was taking territory and because he was expanding the reach of liberation, really. And so you have a president that is a Black president for 12 years. And by the way, Obama is not even, like, he was raised in a white home too. And he's a white educated.
Obama wasn't really Black, is what I'm hearing her say.
Black man. So we have Black president for 8 years. And as a response to that, we have a white supremacist in the White House. And
so whenever you hear that Obama was the first Black president, he was the first white president. No, he was a white president with the darkest skin shade. I think that's the better way to say it.
Overt white supremacists in the White House in Trump. And it is the far right that put him there, the religious far right that put him there.
That's probably true.
It is the religious, the churches that were supporting him that put him there. So I think that white backlash is not backed up and supported by white churches, white theology, and
Cedar Tree in the live stream chat says CRT took over my church and so I left. Yeah, don't think for 1 second that critical race theory is just a secular thing. No. I think a lot of times people. This is my theory with Joe. She's left Christianity, one version of it, and she's replaced it with critical race theory religion because it gives her hope, meaning, and purpose. I call it the feel sorry for-ness religion, which is not necessarily bad. Don't get me wrong. If you use that feel sorry for-ness to help people better their lives, great. But, well, we'll get into that.
And fundamentalist spaces where people are being indoctrinated and radicalized.
Yes. Can people be indoctrinated and radicalized into critical race theory, I wonder? Now, I'm assuming that she's studied critical race theory, but she might be listening right now and say, what's critical race theory? That could be true too.
To have this faith that is toxic and abusive and harmful is not honest, and it's very dangerous. We will continue to repeat history.
Yeah. And one of the things I feel like I've explained to a number of friends over the last 24 hours is that, like, white supremacy, it's not necessarily always referring to someone who, like, wakes up in the morning and consciously thinks, like, oh, I don't like Black people, or I don't like people of color, or whatever. It involves a sort of willing ignorance about the system that's in place.
The system, can you be more specific, please? What system is he exactly talking about?
And because I've noticed for myself over the last 24 hours, I've sometimes been tempted to be like, I just really don't want to get involved in this, and I'm just gonna keep my head down for the next.
See, if the United States has a system of white supremacy in place, why is it that so many non-white people around the world want to come to the United States, to this horrible place of white supremacy? And I thought to myself, no, that can't be true. And so then I looked it up. Let's see here. Top 15, the 15 countries with the most immigrants. Oh, you guys can't see that. Now, these are just raw numbers, of course. The United States is a big country, but we got another chart to show here. United States has the most immigrants. So this is according to the United Nations. This is from weforum.org. The United States has the highest number of immigrants, foreign-born individuals, with 48 million. Russia second. Saudi Arabia, that was surprising to me. So this is mostly white, mostly white, mostly white, mostly white, mostly white, mostly white, mostly white. What do we count Spain as? I don't know. Yeah, so there you go. Most immigrants, where places where people with really light skin are the majority. And then this other chart here, if you look at as a percentage of the population, yeah, United Arab, good for you guys. Emirates, yes. Saudi Arabia, yeah. Switzerland, ooh. You can't get more light skin than that, can you? Australia, Canada, Austria, United States, United Kingdom, a lot of white privilege there that people want to go move to. Okay, let's get back.
A couple days and wait for it to blow over. And as I was thinking about that...
Jim Cummins asked a great question. Can white supremacy exist and people still want to come here because the quality of life, money you could earn here is high? Yeah. So the real question is, what's the problem with white supremacy? Oh, what's going on here? Now that question alone just... But articulate for me, will you? What exactly is wrong with white supremacy if it leads to a better life here in the United States? Now, before you call me a racist and all those things, try to articulate the answer. If your answer is, well, white supremacy leads to the harm of others, and if that were true overall, it definitely can be true, but overall, in a country situation, if that were true, why so many people want to come to a place where they're going to be harmed? Right? Am I making sense or not?
I'm like, well, that feeling, the only reason I even have that option is because I'm white.
Yep.
And taking that option is participating in white supremacy.
What's interesting is when I watched, Mike Winger, when I watched this one from her channel, which is called Joe Luehmann, they both admitted that she was raised in a wealthy home and he was raised in a very poor home. She was raised in Colombia. He was raised in the United States. So if we're looking at white supremacy having to do with the likelihood of making more money, that wasn't the case for these two.
Not in a way where I'm actively going out hating people, but I'm participating in the privilege I have because I'm white.
Right.
To bury my head in the sand.
Yeah, it's called white apathy.
Yeah. White supremacy isn't just people...
And what's also interesting is about this, and what I have in common with Joe here, is they have kids, I have kids. Are our kids, would you call them white or non-white? I don't know.
Going out, looking to beat up a person of color. It's not like that. Although it does end up like that at times.
Can someone be a white supremacist and actually do good in the world and help people who are non-white? Think about that one. Spoiler alert, answer is yes. So what would you rather have? A non-white supremacist, or a white supremacist a non-white supremacist who does bad things to people, or a white supremacist who does good things for people? Which one would you rather have? Well, Doug, that doesn't happen. That's impossible. Well, wait a minute. If you answer my question, why is white supremacy bad, and your answer has to do with harming others, and I've given you an example of someone who truly believes that people with darker skin are inferior, but that leads them to behave in certain ways that increases the well-being of those people who have darker skin shades, then why again is it wrong? Just because they're having thoughts, though, Doug. They're having these bad thoughts. That sounds a lot like Christianity. Having bad thoughts is bad. Is a sin. Okay, watch this. I'm going to have really bad thoughts about someone with darker skin right now. Have I harmed them? No, I have not harmed them. Let me try it again. No, I don't think I harmed them. It's actions that harm people, right? Not thoughts. This is like it's so ironic because I think this is a leftover from thought crimes from Christianity. You just think about a woman lustfully and you committed adultery in your heart.
Yeah. So like, what would you say to people who are like, well, I'm white, but I'm not a white supremacist. Like what? what do you?
You are. That's what I would say.
See, and the question I would ask is, so what? What's bad about being a white supremacist?
You are.
And her answer is going to be the same as mine. It leads to harm. But if it doesn't lead to harm, then if a person calls himself a white supremacist who doesn't know harm, even burying your head in the sand, well, she would say, by definition, burying your head in the sand is going to cause harm, but maybe not. Like, I think people who are even white supremacists could say to another white supremacist, don't do harm, right?
I am a brown woman that wasn't born or raised in this country, and white supremacy was within me too.
Oh, so Joe Luehmann admits she's a white supremacist as a brown woman born in Colombia? I'm starting to get confused.
Supremacy is within me too, because white supremacy is a system of oppression. It has nothing to do.
What does supremacy even mean? In what aspects? Okay, let's really think about this. Let's really try to offend ourselves. We got two people. One person believes that when their child is sick, they should take medicine from the doctor. The other one thinks that having some type of incantation, some ritual with smoke and feathers will heal their child. Which is better way to heal, fix the child's problems? Using science and medicine, medical science, or using some type of smoke and feathers? Can we not say in that aspect that the medicine is superior to the feathers and smoke? That's reasonable, right? So in that sense, in that specific example, and let's say the person who uses medical science to heal their child is white, and someone who uses feathers and smoke is not white. Can we not say the white person is superior to the non-white person in that specific instance? It's like, it's duh, yeah. If that's your goal, is to heal your child.
With the color of your skin. The only reason we call it white supremacy is because it's a system of oppression that benefits white people and oppresses everybody else. And it
oppresses everybody else? Everybody? No, you don't believe that, Joe. Hey, thank you for the donation, Duke Davidson. What you are saying is like a discussion about pedophilia versus pederasty, demonizing the often uncontrollable desire independent of the action. I didn't understand that, Duke, but I love your name, and thank you for the donation.
It benefits white people in the macro, It protects you. However, it doesn't benefit you. It gives you the notion that you're superior and better. And all of these ideologies end up...
So what if a person... Well, I got to mute. What was I saying? So what if another person thinks they're better than you? Like, this is what the question I was asking earlier. Maybe it's just as bad to think you're inferior to a person than as a person who thinks they're better than you, superior. Can you really say one's worse? No, one is worse than the other?
Soul, really. So it doesn't help anybody, but white supremacy can be held and can be uplifted by a person of any color and any race.
Yeah.
Yeah, then why are we even talking about this? I don't know. I guess to help people, right?
You've all seen the black people and the brown people and the Hispanic people that are supporting Trump and are supporting...
What's the word for that? There's a word for when black people... I've heard the phrase, I'm not saying this, but I've heard the phrase of that black person's acting white. Oh, Uncle Tom. I think she's calling people who do certain things they're not white Uncle Toms. Here's another basic question. It's just like, what does white mean? Man, we got to make a law in this country. We'll grandfather it in. So how is this for a law? people with light skin can only have coitus with people with dark skin. And if your skin is not white or light or dark, it's somewhere in the middle, then you have to have coitus with people. Let's just get rid of this color thing, and let's just interbreed, mix colors, and we'll be done with this.
White supremacy ideologies, because white supremacy is the idea, and
I have a feeling that wouldn't fix the problem.
belief that white people or white culture, white ways of doing things is superior. And we have all been indoctrinated into that because we live in a white supremacist culture. We live in a white supremacist society.
Well, and it's like not even, it's not just, and it's not always explicit. It's very often just implied. And
yes. And that's where the work of checking your implicit biases is the work of dismantling white supremacy.
Yeah. Implicit bias. Can you can you have a bias against people with white skin? I wonder. Of course, right?
What are your implicit biases? If you cannot say the ways in which you
why can't we just she brought up Martin Luther King previously. Why can't we judge people by the character and their ideas, the quality of their ideas, rather than how much melanin is in their skin?
If you cannot verbalize the ways in which you have implicit biases that are negative toward other people groups, then you haven't done the work of healing. Then you haven't done the work of dismantling. Because we have implicit biases about fat people, and we have implicit biases about Black people, and we have implicit biases about people like me that have an accent. And, we have implicit biases.
Yep, that's very true. We do have biases. The question is, how do we lower them?
About women and trans people, we have implicit biases about the other. And if we are not able to acknowledge that and look at ourselves in the mirror and say, like, yeah, you know what? We have implicit biases about Muslim people, because if it were Muslim people and if they were waving Qurans instead of Bibles yesterday, if they were talking about Muhammad instead of Jesus yesterday, we would have not have an issue calling it what it is, terrorism.
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. Duke Davison, another donation. Thank you so much. If it helps, pederasty is the act of child molestation, while pedophilia is just desire. Someone could have an uncontrollable and unwanted desire and never act on it. Yes, it's the difference between thought crime and actually doing things. And you're asking, are they still bad people? I think people will answer that question differently. But let me put it this way. I'm going to make this point so strong that's going to scare people, I think. Now, my wife is dark-skinned. My children are mixed. But if I had a choice between living in a KKK neighborhood that is non-violent, but they truly believe that Black people are inferior, or if I had a choice to live in a neighborhood of critical race theorists who don't believe that Black people are inferior, but are on the violent side, like they're really passionate activists and they will break windows and stuff, I'd rather live with the KKK. You know why? Because they're not going to hurt me. They can't hurt me with their thoughts. They can try, but no. As long as you're not breaking my windows, breaking my bones, I'll be fine. But if someone wants to think bad thoughts about me, go ahead. Now, Doug, that's just your white privilege because you were raised in such a way that you are so secure in yourself that I don't know if that's true.
Yes.
Right? No Christian.
I think there's a lot of people with darker skin than me that are pretty self-secure and don't care if people think. I think it's more of an age thing than a color thing. Is that true? I wonder.
Christian would have said that's not terrorism.
Right. Yeah, that's entirely right.
But because but because it's Jesus and because it's the Christian Bible, then you know what? It's just passion and we need to pray. If it would have been Muslim people, it's not prayer what they would have turned to.
Okay. That is pretty sobering stuff. And
someone asked, what if the violence was on the other side? I'm not sure what you mean. Trying to figure out, what if the violence, are you saying what if people with darker skin were being violent towards people with whiter skin. I think all violence against people, hurting people, is bad, but I don't consider thoughts as violence. No, I don't even think of words, unless you're a judge who can sentence someone. I hereby declare you guilty. No, just talking between your neighbors and so forth. You might hurt their feelings. You might they might be disappointed in you, but no, that's not violence. Thank you for the donation, Be a Wolf. Pedophiles are defined by the desire. Pederasts are defined by the act. Yeah, I got that, Be a Wolf, but thank you for the donation. They were trying to distinguish between the crime and thought crime. Yes, I am not against thought crime. If people want to think the worst possible thoughts about me, feel free. As long as you're not breaking my windows, trashing my property, or injuring me and my family. But feel free to think the worst thoughts of me. That's fine. I'll be okay.
A lot in various ways, and I really appreciate Joe's perspective, because she helps put words to some of the things that I'd already been sort of sensing, and then also sorts of
yeah. Actually, she goes on. They go on to talk about more things, but I think this is more interesting actually, because it's more relatable to me and my wife's situation. Hey, thank you for the donation. Go New York, go New York, go. Without race, people just find another reason to divide and discriminate. Yes, I agree with that. Look at Korea, Nigeria, Middle East. Same races of people still at odds. Yeah, it's Homo sapiens are messed up. That's the bottom line. And it's like we want, when there's problems in our own lives, we want to blame someone, because it's really hard to blame ourselves, right? And this is a question I often ask that I think everybody agrees with, but it makes them not feel good. And that is it easier to change yourself, or is it easier to change the world around you? It's a no-brainer question, right? It's much easier to change yourself. So just assume you're going to always be in a rotten world, and it's always going to be unfair, and just work on yourself. Now, I'm not saying you don't try to change the world. No, I'm not saying that. But I'm saying that's your priority, should be. Okay, let's go. I want to listen to this a little bit.
Hello and welcome to the Luehmann Circus. We are a family of 5, gonna be 6.
Kent, Setsma asks a great question. What if your neighbor's thoughts make them vote to limit the rights of mixed race kids? Yeah, this is a great question. I would say that this is where you start having conversations like that, where I would convince them that they shouldn't vote that way, and then they could try to convince me that why I should vote that way, like why mixed kids are bad or wrong for society, and then we have the conversation, right? But we don't say things like, "Oh no, because you have a certain skin shade, I shouldn't listen to your arguments." Here's another thing. In critical race theory, often, they say a few things, but one of them is that everyone's a racist. I got that on tape. I don't want to dig it out right now. And that's very dangerous, because what happens is when you say everyone's a racist, or even if you make it all white people are racist, the word loses its value. It loses its meaning. Like even my kids, like the kids in high school nowadays, at least according to my son, they'll throw the word racist around like it's candy. It has no meaning anymore. And that's a tragedy for the true racists out there. Like to me, a true racist is one who actually does bad things. Not just this implicit, oh, you live in a white privileged society and so therefore everyone's racist, blah, blah, blah. It's like, if someone calls me a racist, it does not sting at all. It's like, it's same with homophobia and transphobia and all these things. The words are being thrown out like candy so often. It's like it loses its meaning. What was the other thing I was going to say? I forget.
Gosh, I won't say that soon. Oops.
Very soon.
Very soon. We like to talk about faith, family, and just life in general.
And today we want to talk about deconstruction in your marriage, or marriage through deconstruction. So we already made a video about deconstruction, but now we want to just narrow it down with marriage. So watch the video. Deconstruction. And we're talking about literally just taking your faith and taking it to the bare bones and starting to question everything about it, and seeing where things land. But faith is such a big thing in people's lives, and it was particularly in our life. We were pastors, we were giving ourselves to the church. That was our job, that was our whole entire life. Married life had been given to the church, all of our careers, my education, his education, like everything that we had done for the last decade. I moved to the
Hey, thank you, Andrew Roberts, for the donation. First time here, well, welcome. Well, you've entered a live stream that's kind of risque, so maybe it's going to be your last time here too.
United States, and I became an intern at a church. Like, that's what I did. So even me being in this country was attached to my faith. So deconstructing this was a big deal. It was such a big part of our life, and unavoidably, it was a big part of our marriage. So it was, we talked to people that have deconstructed too. We've talked to people that have deconstructed in different ways, because everybody's deconstruction process is so different, and their marriage suffers because when a couple deconstructs, they deconstruct in different.
Yeah, I agree with her here. It's like you're married to a new person in a sense, and it takes, for me and my wife, I think it took about at least a full year, maybe 2, to get over the really bad feelings about that.
Different directions sometimes. And if faith is such a big deal, you start to wonder, like, what is this going to look like for us? Because we married with this understanding that we were Christians and we were going to have a Christian marriage, and we were going to have these beliefs that were set on stone almost. And those set on.
You can tell he wants to talk, but he can't.
Shaking.
The stones all broke apart and collapsed. Especially our entire marriage, our entire relationship was built on our faith.
Right.
To be honest, and so.
That's the same with me and my wife. And I quote, someone asked me before we got married, why do you want to get married to this person? And I said, because she's a very godly woman, end quote.
Constructing ourselves, like it's been a journey.
Yeah.
It's going to keep being a journey, but it is something that at least we know, I believe we've gone through the hardest things because we've had to really deconstruct ourselves first, and in that we've deconstructed.
Oh, is someone in my whereby room? I didn't hear a knock. Let me check.
We know, I believe we've gone through the hardest.
Oh, there he is.
To really deconstruct ourselves first, and in that we've deconstructed.
Yeah, you have. Hey, David, can you hear me? Yeah, turn off your YouTube channel. And let me do one thing here. I don't know why I didn't get a notification. Oh, I know why. My fault. I apologize. Let me go over here. Let me bring this over here. I can't hear you yet. And you muted yourself. Unmute yourself. There you go.
You can hear me?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah, the other day when I came over, it had a knock option, but today it was just right in. So I didn't want to be bombarding your live stream.
That's okay. See, we haven't talked before though, have we? You don't look familiar.
We haven't talked face to face. I think we had a YouTube comment exchange maybe like a year ago. I can't remember, and I probably wasn't very kind. I don't remember. I feel like it started out fine, and then like probably I got frustrated or something. I don't know.
Okay. Just to let people know where you're coming from. Are you a Christian, non-Christian?
I am a Christian. I guess I was raised in a Christian household, but then really just kind of wandered off and did my own thing once I went to college, and was kind of rubbed wrong by institutional Christianity, especially at the university level. It's just kind of adult youth camp or whatever. Everyone's kind of the same age, and I just felt rubbed wrong, and I started to see some hypocrisy within the church, which I don't.
Yeah, you got to watch your phrasing because of the Ravi Zacharias thing when you say rubbed wrong. So,
I felt like I had heard some rumors about that, and honestly, I was in a discussion with someone, and I don't know how you'll feel about this, but I felt like there had been a few sort of like in the Christian evangelical world, these like quote unquote giants that all kind of passed in the last year. And even kind of wondered, like, is this all just odd timing, or is there some other things coming to pass with it? But obviously we probably wouldn't agree on any of that. But I felt like I'd heard some rumbling, and then I'd kind of been off the radar with things of that sort, and then just came on your podcast or your web stream, I think Tuesday. I can't remember. When were you talking about him? Just a few days ago?
Yeah, it's all blur.
Yeah. So, but that's the first I had heard of like more of the details of what it actually was, and obviously pretty.
Yeah, it's pretty serious.
But
what did you want to come in and talk about today?
Oh, I just wanted to talk to you. I don't know.
Okay. Not on this
your stream. Well, we could talk about. I popped in. I maybe tuned in like 25 minutes ago. So it's here in the critical race theory, and I thought one thing that's kind of interesting. It seems like Christian evangelicals, and I don't know if you would take the claim or the title street epistemology or whatever, but the sort of like atheistic logic, it seems like the critical race theory is something that's brought those two camps together. And
oh no, the opposite.
You don't think so? You don't think that like
when you say together? Oh, hang on. Maybe I misunderstand you. I think a lot of people who do street epistemology are against critical race theory. Is that what you're saying as well?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Then I agree with you. Yeah.
And obviously there's some liberal churches that are going whole hog on the critical race theory and just kind of throwing everything out. I thought one thing on that note that I thought was interesting. I took a implicit bias. I took like 2 implicit bias, I think through Harvard or something. So I actually have receipts saying that I prefer black over white and I prefer homosexual over straight. But I don't think that would save me from the mob. You know what I mean? Like, so that's the thing of like, you're racist, you're homophobic, but it doesn't, I think you were saying like, yeah, we all have biases. How do we lower those so that we don't negatively impact other people? I think we all are kind of programmed to be drawn to like just by your environment. If you're raised by mother and father look like you're that's kind of what you're going to be accustomed to. But I've also heard things around kids don't really understand the concept of race until they're like 5, maybe. But it seems like they don't really care about that. They just want to have a constant. It's the carrots and sticks. They can always dangle it out there for you, which I think probably goes right in your wheelhouse with with religious Christianity. Having things to you can never reach it, right? But I think the critical race theory is obviously very, very dangerous.
One thing with the critical race theory is the question is always asked, or the claim is made that we need more black people in a certain business or in government or more women or whatever. And I'd love to ask the question, why? Why do we need more black people in government? Why do we need more women as CEOs? And force the person to articulate exactly why. And they'll end up saying something like, well, because it gives a unique perspective. And then I'll say, well, wait a minute. Can't you have unique perspectives within one skin shade or one sex?
Yeah. And it oddly has some blowback, because if it's done crudely, you run into, tokenism, or someone who maybe the company culture is this, but then you just bring someone in to have a different perspective, but then it can have some very unintended consequences that don't bring forth the results that they're hoping for. But I think there's some optics to it that none of that actually matters. We just need to say we're doing the right thing. And kind of on that note, I think it's a little bit with the transgender movement or what's going on in that realm too, which I think is kind of interesting. What the point you made about diversity, like diversity of thought, diversity of experience, that kind of doesn't matter. It's diversity of census bullet points. And then in the trans world, it's that strange dichotomy of the feminist movement seemed to really broaden what it meant to be female, but the trans movement is sort of like, no, like being a female is wearing dresses and makeup, like, or whatever, like it's a more rigid expression of what a man is and what a woman is, while throwing out the vast diversity
or being a female is more internally how you view yourself in your mind, not if you have a penis or not.
Yep.
Yeah. So, how long have you been following my channel?
I've been following, I can't remember, I think I had been subscribed at one point, and then I did a huge YouTube purge where I just pretty much unsubscribed from most stuff, and then I resubscribed a few weeks ago, maybe, kind of just popped back in, but I can't remember. I had followed back into some of your exchanges. I can't watch all the 3 hours. You have some longer content, but I appreciate the bite-sized stuff.
But you've watched quite a few of my videos?
Yeah, I've seen I feel like a good number of them.
And you're still a Christian.
I am.
What's going on? Satan, what's the deal? Haven't you been working on this guy, Daniel? He said he forgot about you.
Oh, goodness. Well, I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I think if you're striving forward in perfection of Christ.
I called you Daniel. It's David, right? Sorry.
Yeah, David. You're supposed to be known by the devil and his minions.
So what kind of Christian are you? A good one or a bad one?
I mean, probably a bad one. I mean, I'm striving towards to know Christ fully and to walk with him. I think the thing where I'm at right now, which I think I've experienced a lot of people coming into this, where I stepped away from the church because I really didn't care about like church, like I was raised in church, but then at some point when I'm like 18, 19, I was rubbed wrong by the youth ministry. They were all trying to attract me to their Thursday night thing. And I came into college thinking I had a relationship with Jesus, and they didn't really care about that. They're like, you need to come to the Rock. You need to come to Salt because this is where it's at. And for a few months in my freshman year of college, I don't want to get full bio, but I was just trying to pray and read the Bible on my own. And then I'm about January, so the start of second semester, I thought maybe I should check this out. But
that's a long time ago, right?
Long time ago. This is 2001.
So where are you at in your Christianity right now?
I've been walking with the Lord seriously for 10 years. I came back after walking away from the church for 8+ years. And
which fits pretty, I don't know if you've ever heard me say this, but most Christians are born and raised in Christianity. Then they have their doubts between 18 and 22, and then they do research or have an amazing experience or whatever, and then they go back to the core beliefs that they were raised in. It seems like that you fit that mold to a T, or no?
Not. I wouldn't say. I mean, I think if you had to like plot it on a, like for research purposes, I think I would probably stand pat with that. But mine was really more like, I just wanted to live my life apart. And I felt like I was doing just fine without God. And for a while I felt like, hey, this sin stuff isn't so bad. All the stuff, the stuff that I thought was bad, but kind of in the back of my mind thought was like the goodies, like the locked liquor cabinet, or, the snacks on the top shelf or whatever. I'm like, it didn't hit me as hard as I thought it would. But then after like 5-6 years of that, it just started to eat at my heart, and I just felt like there was some emptiness, and I actually stumbled into a church. And my experience when I came back to the Lord was very different from what I grew up with. It didn't feel like a return home.
What kind of church are you in now?
It's non-denominational, I guess it'd be described that way.
Is it lean charismatic or not?
Yeah, but way more orderly than some of the charismatic stuff I'd been exposed to. So the church I came back to faith in was a little more loose, but still kind of on the spectrum of the church I'm a part of now. So,
are you married?
Yes.
Okay. I didn't see a ring on your finger, so I wasn't sure.
Oh yeah, I'm not wearing a ring anymore. So
didn't fit or what?
No. Well, I mean that's honestly one thing too. I was starting to get on that of like less church traditions and more just trying to, what does the Bible actually say? Like what does Jesus tell us to do? Less than like.
So you don't wear a ring because Jesus never told you to wear a ring?
Well, I took it off because it really has no precedence, and it's a pagan tradition. I think it actually came from Egypt. That it's like the circular. I did a little bit of research into that, but I actually took it off.
But so what if it's a pagan tradition? Have some bling. It's great.
We could talk about that, but I don't necessarily think it's that. that valuable. But
so are
yeah,
you
married with 4 boys?
Four boys? Oh wow.
Yeah, we practice natural family. I did the joke wrong. I'm supposed to say my wife and I practice natural family planning. We have 4 boys, and the oldest one's 5.
So your wife lives in a testosterone cloud.
I think it's one way you could describe it, I guess.
So do I have your permission to cause doubt in your Christianity?
Yeah, I probably have like 20 minutes.
Well, yeah, we might not even take that long.
Yeah. I like your optimism. No, and I don't think you're going to be successful, first of all, but I love, well, you'll be successful in asking really good questions, because I think that's what you do.
I'm willing to believe that Christianity is true if I am convinced it's true. Like if it is true, I'm willing to believe it.
No.
Are you willing to abandon Christianity if it isn't true?
If it isn't true, yeah, but I don't. It's hard for me to imagine what that would, how you would prove that it's untrue to me, I guess.
Okay. Do you need proof that Christianity is not true, or can you just doubt it enough to say that it's likely not true?
Do I need proof that it's not true? I think I need to have proof that it's not true, because and I don't even know what that proof would be.
Okay, this is where, I appreciate your answer, but this is where you and I are already different, because I don't think you need proof, in my opinion, to say that to abandon Christianity. You don't need proof that it's not true. I think you just can doubt it enough that the core claims actually happen in history. It could have, but see, take something that's even non-religious. Like I always use my flying man. I don't know if you ever heard it, but like I say that my great grandfather could fly unaided. Seriously, he could just fly. He ran off the cliff of the Grand Canyon and just start flying. And now, do you need proof that didn't happen, or can you just doubt that ever happened? And I come from the position that you don't need to prove that didn't happen. You can just say, no, I don't believe that happened. What do you think about that?
Do I need proof to doubt your story that you're great?
Right.
I don't need proof to doubt that.
Okay. Now, why do you need proof for Christianity if you don't need proof for the flying man?
Well, I think the claims are very different, and the historical record is different in the two scenarios.
Have you heard me do the flying man before?
I haven't. No.
Okay. So what if I told you that there's a creed that says that my ancestor flew in front of 500, and then in front of 12 of his best friends, and then finally to a guy named Myron, and this is all written down in a diary about 20 years after the flying man flew? Would you believe it then?
And previously, the 500 people that he flew in front of were living one way, and then they were willing to stake
we can go to that, but let's just,
okay.
Based on that alone, would you believe the man flew?
No, because I mean, anyone can write anything. I think. Right. So the next part for me, so maybe I jumped ahead, is just the willingness to the early followers that claimed it was revealed to them, having a change of.
Okay, so let's go do that one. Let's think. So just based on that creed, I'll call it, I wouldn't believe it. You wouldn't believe it. Now if I told you that there are letters written even after that, decades after, saying that people's lives were radically changed because my ancestor flew. Like they were one way, and then they completely did a 180, and now they live in a different way, a good way. Would you believe that my ancestor flew then?
I don't. And one, I almost said this before I came in, is that I don't necessarily think the hypotheticals are like, I would almost, I'll continue to engage, but I think hypotheticals have some like, I think it can be a good illustration tool, but I think there's some like, and I can't really completely describe what they are, but I think they provide like some sticky avenues that aren't as helpful if what we're trying to discover is truth. Well, they feel like thought exercises, I guess.
Yeah.
Maybe.
The reason why I do this is because there's in the many years I've been interviewing Christians and Muslims, Mormons, and so forth, what ends up happening is it becomes just reason after reason after reason from all over the place, like eyewitnesses, manuscripts, prophecy, blah, 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 blah. And it becomes this overwhelming thing that it's whack-a-mole. It's like you can't really get your teeth into one of them. And with the flying man, I think you and I are the same. Like, I would say, no, I'm not going to believe it just because a book says 500 people saw it. I'm not going to believe it even though it's a different book say that their lives were radically changed. I'm not even going to believe it if there's 4 diaries written 40 years after that says that Jesus appeared to some women, some other people. I still don't believe it. And we can not throw things away, but just add to it one by one by one. And I'm just curious if you would be, at what point you would believe in the flying man.
I think I would probably engage the flying man the same way I engaged when I walked away from Christianity the first time, is that I didn't come to faith. And so this is maybe a difference of perspective of the nature of humanity or the nature of how we come to some of these things, but it was a spiritual awakening. It wasn't like, okay. It wasn't a rational of like, hey, look at all these data points. Do you want to join this Christianity club? It's like, yeah, this seems like a rational thing. Let me go do this. It was, odd. So maybe I know you have a background in Christianity. I heard a preaching on Job, and that's what saved me.
But then you had some type of spiritual awakening, you said?
Yeah. So the first, and honestly, it was almost instantaneous. I came in, stumbled into this church at like the end of their worship time. And then the pastor just started preaching out of Job, and it just felt like arrows to my heart. And I think, I don't know, I'm sure your followers know the story of Job, but a righteous man who everything goes wrong. But at the end of it, it's also one of the most mysterious books of the Bible of like.
Do you believe Mormonism is false?
Yeah, I can't say I've fully looked into all of the aspects.
I do too. I think Mormonism is false, but Mormons often say the same thing. Can a Mormon say that they've had this awakening? Yeah, this awakening. Maybe they hear a message. Does that mean it's more likely to be true?
Does it mean it's more likely to be true?
Yeah, is Mormonism more likely to be true if someone feels something internally that they say is God speaking to them, and while hearing a message about Joseph Smith? I don't know. Does that mean Mormonism is more likely to be true to you?
No, and I think if you're looking at the monotheistic religions, I think that can be like a closed set. Like there's a reason that Mormonism is untrue.
But hang on, but let's take it one thing at a time. If it's not more likely to be true for the Mormon, is it more likely to be true for you? Based on those reasons alone, this message you heard and this spiritual awakening that you had at the same time.
On that reason alone, no. That's not enough of a reason to say why Christianity versus Mormonism.
Or just both could be wrong, right?
Yeah, I guess.
So what is the reason then? If we can say that the spiritual awakening wouldn't be a good reason, and you mentioned like the creed and maybe some of the historical stuff wasn't the real reason for you, and it's probably not for the flying man either. What is it? Why do you really believe?
Because the gospel was preached and my spirit awoke, and so then so maybe this is a continuation of the burning bosom for the Mormon, why it's not. But like I heard this message, something like pierces my heart, and all of a sudden I go to a book and things are jumping off the page in a way, like it comes to life in a way, and there's truth in it as I'm reading it. It's like, this is true. This rings true to my spirit as I'm reading this. Like, yes, that is what humanity does. This is true about my heart. This is true about this.
Do you think the Quran rings true to a Muslim?
Yeah, I'm sure it does. It actually, there's passages from it that I think ring really true that I've heard. But
you don't think Islam is true?
No, I don't. And so that's where we could talk more exclusively about like the monotheistic from the Abrahamic religions. I think there's some.
Yeah, but this is like what I really don't want to do is get into the thick weeds of it. I just want like headline overview. If you're telling me that you think something is true because it really spoke to you, it rings true to you or whatever, and yet people can give those exact same reasons on false claims, how do you know you're not that person who just, it feels like it's true, it rings as true, it makes sense to you, all these things, but you're still wrong? How did you figure out that you're not that person, like the Muslim who reads the Quran and it does all these things for them?
Yeah, without getting into the weeds of the Abrahamic religions and why I believe there's more truth to Christianity than Christianity is a continuation and a fulfillment of the Israelites, the Hebrew religion,
right,
of Yahweh. So it's a continuation of that. Mormonism is a continuation beyond that, which the scripture and the sort of like, you want to call like a second edition of the New Testament pretty much explicitly says that can't happen. Like, don't believe anyone that teaches beyond this. I don't have the exact citation right here. And it teaches against, and you can say that for most Christian sects. So like Mormonism.
You know that Judaism has that as well. Judaism has that. It's in Deuteronomy that you shouldn't add or subtract from God's word. And the Christians say, well, the New Testament isn't adding or subtracting from God's word because it is God's word. It's his word. And so it's not an adding and subtracting. And you know what? Muslims say the same thing. This is God's word. So we're not adding or subtracting to God's word. It's his word. It's always been his word. And same with Mormons. They say the same thing. If this is truly from God, then it's not man adding or subtracting from God's word. It's God. This is his word. That's eternal. And when I'm trying to get at why you really think it's true, and you say things like, well, it's not really historical, and you admit that it's not these experiences, these awakenings can be in other religions, and yet those religions false, and we have maybe more of a history and a continuation. When you look at each reason individually, do you agree with me that each reason can be doubted pretty extensively?
Yeah, I think you could say the same thing about like why I love my wife. Like all the reasons like isolated is like, but is that enough to know, or that my wife loves me? I guess each reason or evidence.
Well, that's a good point. Why do you believe your wife loves you?
I mean, it depends on the day.
That's funny.
Yeah, I mean, it is. There's words, there's actions, there's there's a lot of things within actions of like, she continues to come, she gives me things, like she's nice to me. Let
me put it this way. How would you know if your wife doesn't love you?
I mean, I've been, as I think a number have, of like wrong on that account, thinking that something is one way. I don't want to get into like
what would your
heartbreak stories, but
what would your wife have to do in order for you to be convinced she no longer loves you?
I think adamantly telling me over and over again, and then there'd be like action, like sustained action, communicating the same message. We probably have had some fights of 7 years of marriage, 4 boys in 5 years. Like we've had some fights where it's like I don't know, explicitly told me I don't love you, but like we've gotten at it. Not proud of that fact, but then we come together and forgive and make amends.
But there's definitely things that your wife could do as an action that it would convince you, no, she doesn't love me. Like if she would to cheat on you, even kill your children or whatever, the love is not there. Now, what can Christianity show you, or what could you learn from Christianity to be convinced that this is not true? Just like you have some markers to show your wife doesn't love you. What are the markers that Christianity could be false for you?
Yeah, it's hard for me to I don't know offhand what could And I don't think, like, it doesn't feel like I have a cognitive block of like, no, I have to, like, we got a house of cards here, it's real fragile, we can't knock this down. It just feels like I've been convinced at a core level that, I mean, I've built my whole life the last 10 years upon that truth. And it doesn't feel like a sunk cost sort of thing. It just feels like the more I press in, the more truth and the more stability, it's bearing fruit in my life.
Okay.
Which other people can say from other religions as well, I'm sure.
Right. Like I often get asked, Doug, what would it take for you to become a Christian? And I have a pretty quick answer, and that is I would need some type of empirical evidence. And I always use this. I say, pray in the name of Jesus that this will light on fire. That would raise my confidence if you do it in the name of Jesus, that there is a supernatural that interacts with this world. And because it was in the name of Jesus, that maybe Jesus has something to do with this and so forth. And it's similar to 1 Kings 18. And so I have a pretty, I think, powerful, quick answer of how I would know whether Christianity is true, or at least get on that path. But it disheartens me a little when I ask a Christian, well, what could you learn that would get you on the path that maybe Christianity isn't true? And the reason why it's disheartening is because if we value this thing called truth, we should have markers that would change our mind. Would you agree with that?
That we should have markers that change our mind?
Yeah, things to signposts, things to look for that would change our mind, to let us know that, man, I thought this was true, but maybe it isn't.
Yeah, I mean, and I think you're talking about doubt, and I've certainly had doubts, like the flying man thing. Like, I don't remember how recent I've had that thought, but like just a thought of like, there is a possibility that all this is, even Paul speaks to that at one point in one of his letters. If he hangs his whole life on like, if Christ didn't rise from the dead, we're the most to be pitied. Like, eat, drink, and be merry. Like, this is foolishness. And so I think that's where it comes down to. It's a truth. It's a historic truth claim of either this happened, either Yahweh parted the Red Sea and the Israelites walked through it and freed. And I think there would be some historic record from the Arch of Titus to indicate that at least there was some retribution that happened as Israel was brought back into slavery.
But you said a phrase, historical truth claim. Now, let me throw some possible markers out for you, some signposts that might cause you to doubt. Would it cause you to doubt if you saw a text written 20 years later that said an amazing thing happened, like a man flew? Would that, and I already asked you this question, and I think you said no, you wouldn't believe that historical claim based on that type of evidence. Just because a book says that a man flew doesn't mean it happened. Isn't it reasonable to say just because Paul said that Jesus rose from the dead, the earliest record in 1 Corinthians 15, would you agree that doesn't mean it happened?
Yeah, not just the fact that something was written, but I think there's enough other truth claims hinging on those things and enough historic record that the accounts can be credible. I mean,
let's look at that then. Let's look at the markers of what might change your mind. Let's say it were true that the author of the first gospel, Mark, wasn't an associate of Peter at all, and never even walked with Jesus, heard of Jesus directly, and didn't even get it from a disciple. What if that were true? Would that be enough doubt in the historical method for you to doubt all of Christianity?
I'd have to look into that more to understand it. I know there's like the three author. I actually might have seen that on one of your videos. In other words,
let's put it this way. Let's say the guy who wrote the Gospel of Mark, let's say it were true that he wrote it in 100 AD, basically at a time frame where it would be next to impossible for him to have walked with Jesus or even talked to anyone who walked with Jesus. Would that cause you enough doubt that this is actually any reliable historical record of Jesus?
If Mark would have been written in 100 AD, so 70 years after Christ, allegedly died,
he would have been about 100 years old. In fact, we could even make it 150 just to be safe, just to show that this is definitely second, third, fourth, fifth hand information. Would that, if that were true, we don't know it's true, but if it were, would that be enough for you to say, I doubt all the gospels, because all the gospels use Mark and borrow from Mark and so forth. Mark is the first gospel. And if it's true, it's written 150 AD. There's no way that that person who wrote it could have even asked people who walked with Jesus about what happened, because it's way too long after. Would you say, wait a minute, I seriously doubt Christianity is true?
I'd have to spend some more time thinking that. Like I can't say right now, because like Mark being the first, and that's, I've done some research on that, but it's not like fresh in my mind of the order of the gospels. And I know there's some evidence that points to certain things, and speculation that epistles were written before the destruction of the temple. So I guess there'd be some doubt. That would be one of the questions that would cause doubt. And that would be one of the things I have to search out, because I've had other things that have come up over the 10 years that I've had to look into. You said something about not thinking you need proof, right? To step away from Christianity.
Right.
But you do need proof to make a positive claim?
Nope.
You don't, and the matchbook that's not a proof to you?
Probably not the way you're defining proof.
Could you explain or answer or inform me so I understand what how you see it different?
With the matchbook thing, like a lot of atheists hound me on this one, but for me personally, if I'm sitting on the toilet, minding my own business, and I pick up and I pick up these matches and I say, I don't believe in any God, but just in the name of Jesus, light these up. In the name of Allah, light these up. In the name of whatever, what if it did light up in the name of Jesus? My goodness. And like, I know I'm not trying to deceive myself here. It's like that would raise my confidence that there's such things as supernatural. And does it prove it? No, I could be delusional, of course, but
then would that be enough? And Jesus even says allegedly, maybe 200 years someone wrote it after, but like a wicked and perverse generation seeks after a sign. And even when he feeds the 5,000 of like, you just came to you because you wanted more bread. Like, so that idea, you're using this as a proof. You're using this as a
way to raise confidence is the way I would say it.
A way to raise confidence. But one, the text that the God who self-disclosed in the text never lays that out as a means of knowing him.
Yes. John, Gospel of John. Remember the story of Lazarus? He stinketh and then he raiseth. And there was many hard-hearted Jews watching that. In fact, the story of Lazarus in the Gospel of John is a reversal of expectations of the story of Lazarus in the Gospel of Luke. There's two Lazaruses in the Gospels. One's in Luke and one's in John. The one in Luke is the parable of the rich man and Lazarus, then heaven and hell.
Dip a finger on my tongue.
And what was the moral of that parable? The moral of the story of that parable was that don't ask for a sign. Like, even if I go back to earth from hell and have someone warn my family. And Jesus said, no, if they don't believe the scriptures, they're not going to believe that. Now, John comes along and writes a story using the same name, Lazarus, with hard-hearted Jews watching. Jesus raises a man who's been dead for many days, longer than he was dead, and he rises from the dead. And it says in the text that many of these hard-hearted Jews followed Jesus after that. So this is the author of John disagreeing with the author of Luke, saying, you say that these are that you shouldn't ask for signs, but no, Jesus did signs so people could follow him. So there was a disagreement between the two authors. It's brilliant writing, but I think even if I am hard-hearted and cold-hearted, and if what you're saying is right,
which I didn't say.
Well, right, the text did.
No. Like, I'm only saying that to mean like one that was about the Jewish rulers at the time. I I'm only saying that it could raise the confidence, but it doesn't bring to belief and discipleship, which is what Jesus is all about. Of like, do you believe?
Right, but the first step,
you,
but the first step is to believe, to be convinced that any of this is true, right? And then discipleship comes later.
But would that convince you? Like you said, it would raise your confidence, but would it?
I think it would. I think it would. And the thing is, if you are right about the scripture part, then I'm just stuck. Like if you shouldn't ask for a sign, then I guess I'm just stuck. And then you're left with the question, would a all-loving God who knows me intimately, knows what it would take to raise my confidence, why wouldn't he do that? Give me a sign like we see with Lazarus in the Gospel of John.
Yeah, I mean, I've asked similar questions because speaking of doubt, I mean, in the stream of Christianity I am in, I have people that say they have dreams where Jesus talks to them all the time. And also in the testimonies, there's a lot of ex-Muslim believers that are coming to faith throughout Iraq underground church. A high percentage of them are sometimes they don't even know the name. One story that was very interesting was they didn't speak English, and a man and
none of that matters to me. You know why? Because there's people converting to Islam from Christianity as well.
Right. Well, I'm just sharing the story about to connect with your thought around why doesn't this happen? You know, why wouldn't I get this sign? If
I see. Yeah. You're saying that.
A high percentage of Muslim to Christian believers have a very strong appearance of someone claiming to be Jesus, saying, "Come follow me," almost like a Paul type.
So you're saying that that's causing you an internal conflict, because how is that any different than me asking Jesus to light matches? If Muslims are getting these extremely vivid dreams and visions of Jesus, like what's the difference?
Yeah, I wouldn't say it causes doubt, but there's times of like, man, why can't you? Can you show up? Like, come talk to me. Can you come talk to me like that too? You know, and
by the way, I think this is way better than a vision. Like my standards are high. I don't know why Muslims lower their standards for Jesus. Like seriously, dream. Everybody has visions and dreams. Like, get out of here. That's not that amazing. But light this up, or even I always pour water on a napkin or whatever.
Right.
Now we're talking. Now we got something.
I mean, that would be demonstrative. So you're taking that all from Elijah?
Elijah, yeah. 1 Kings 18.
Yeah, I mean, I think the stakes are much higher there with Elijah. It's Elijah versus, I can't remember how many prophets of Baal. You know, like the stakes of God showing his power. I think that's one.
Didn't Jesus die for me?
He did.
Me?
He did.
The stakes are not high for me?
So are you equating yourself with Elijah, or are you?
Yes.
You know, so like, but you're not walking with Yahweh, and he's not going to use that. Oh. So I think it would be powerful if you did come.
Are you saying God does miracles with people who obey him more, or walk with him more?
So in the Old Testament, he's working through one of his prophets in that instance, and there's only so many people who are the Holy Spirit.
I'm better than Elijah.
I think it would be amazing. So I'll pray for that. The one of the times you do that on a live stream, that's my requirement. It's a live stream for all your people.
I've done it many times. Do you want to try? Like seriously, a prayer. This is not mocking. This is if you believe that there is a God and that can do miracles, why not try? Is there any? Do you think or it's a sin to try or no?
I don't think it's a sin to try necessarily.
Because maybe it's because I'm a non-Christian and that's why it's not working. I have yet to find a Christian who would agree to try on live stream. Do you want to try?
Well, and now that you say that, now I feel like, is there something written somewhere that I'm not familiar with? But yeah, I'll pray for it, because I pray for healing, and I believe the Lord is capable to do.
I might become a Christian right now on live stream if it works.
That'd be amazing. Okay,
go ahead and pray. Doesn't have to be long.
It feels silly. And I think some of this.
It's what Elijah did.
No, I know. And I'll say this before I pray it. I'm just cognizant of that you have people watching. Because I was going to ask you some questions, or getting more personal, but I don't want to go down that route. But
you can after you pray, yeah. and don't think like it can be like just 5 words.
No. Father God, thank you for Doug. Thank you for all the people watching this stream. I ask if it's in your will, by the power of your Spirit. And if you want to, light these matches on fire, Lord, as a sign of your love, your power, and your testament. Pray this in your name, Jesus. Amen.
I think it would be amazing if they would light up. Okay. Well, we tried. Thanks for doing that. You're the first one.
Yeah, for sure. One quick story on that, because I do believe that God can heal. I don't need to tell that story. Never mind.
Well, why don't you ask me one personal question and then we'll wrap it up.
Well, I can't remember exactly where I was going with it, but then I felt like a pause, because it's like, no, that feels like probing just with an audience, like it felt like it wasn't the right form for it. But
well, I'm an open book here on my live stream.
I believe from the little bit I know of your story, I know were you raised Mennonite, and then did you go somewhere else as well after that?
Yeah, I've been to many different denominations and non-denominations: seeker-sensitive, Pentecostal, Baptist, Calvary Chapel, Presbyterian.
Yeah. And you're married, and your wife is still a believer?
Yes. So if Christianity is true, I will see you in heaven, because I've been sanctified through my believing wife, as 1 Corinthians 6 says.
By her godly conduct.
Yeah.
Has that, because I don't want to get into like marriage counseling or whatever, but like, how has that been? How many years? Because I think you said you started to doubt when you were like 35, and then when you fully walked away after that. Has that been a difficult thing? How is it on her?
It was initially very difficult, but now we have, in my opinion, a great marriage. She's not home to verify that.
Let's kind of double check.
But yeah, we love each other. We don't fight. I've stopped asking her questions. She stopped asking. She can ask me anything, but I've stopped asking her questions because it gets her defenses up.
Mm-hmm.
Because as you might have noticed, I ask pesky questions sometimes.
He has good questions.
And let's see. Yeah, I would say about a year or two it took to. I made a huge mistake when I first told her. I basically said, "Look, I don't believe this anymore. I'm totally convinced this is false, not true. I know you believe it, and she believes in the traditional view of hell." So I said, "Just assume I'm going to hell." I ripped the Band-Aid off fast, in other words, and that was probably the wrong thing to do. Like, she cried a lot. I think even to this day, she holds to the traditional view of hell, and but she's hopeful that I'll come back to Christianity, and that's how she can live with herself.
How many years ago was that? I'm not trying to get your age or whatever, but
well, I'm turning 50 soon, so the process started about 15 years ago, but I didn't call myself an atheist till I was about 40.
And did you sit on it for a while? I mean, obviously you were probably thinking about it before you felt resolute enough to tell her.
Maybe a month, but I told her pretty quickly. And she saw, like, when you have a good marriage, you know what others, you know. And so I didn't hide anything from her. And then with the kids, I said, "Hey, if the kids want to go to church with you, that's fine. I don't want to go." The kids went a few times, but they basically don't want to go to church. My son might be a semi-believer. My daughter isn't.
Is that difficult at all? Like, what kind of worldview are you just kind of raising them in, like, essentially like humanistic principles that have been shaped by Judeo-Christian values? You know what I mean? Like, the Western society's been shaped by Judeo-Christian values
there's very few things like how to treat our neighbors that my wife and I disagree on. Like, my wife might pray for her neighbors and I don't, but as far as actions go, we're basically the same. And so the way I teach my children is to just critically examine their own beliefs, try to lower their own biases, ask good questions of themselves and others. Don't view my big thing is authority. Like, just because someone is behind a pulpit or behind a podium doesn't mean that what they're saying is right. And just because a book says things doesn't mean it's right. So,
and I think that's a good lesson, especially with the timeliness of Ravi. And I've been burned and, you know, been on the opposite side of authority. Jesus, you have good company there with Jesus, you know. He ruffled some feathers with people who thought they had, you know, they did have authority to a degree. But maybe last question here, like, do you guys talk anything about like, I forget the name of it, but essentially like big picture, like what the world is, aspects of like I'm trying to imagine the way I'm raising my boys to understand the world and the nature of reality, and like blanking on the word, to essentially say like
worldview.
The worldview. I feel like there's another word I'm blanking on, but yeah, is there any sort of worldview? Is she speaking about a Christian worldview, or is it more on like the ethics of how you treat people?
You're talking about my wife or my daughter?
Your wife, and then how you guys partner up in that.
Yeah, well, my wife's worldview is definitely Christian, and so she will talk about my worldview, and my worldview is basically I'm okay to say I don't know on some things. Some questions like why are we here? Why is there something rather than nothing, and so forth. But it's interesting the similarities. Like you and my wife, I think, believe that God's always existed and his nature is what it is. I believe that some material, maybe not our reality, our universe, but some material of the cosmos has always existed, has the nature it has the properties it has, and it just is. Now, those are two presuppositions that you can't, I don't think, demonstrate one way or another, because you can't. Well, you can demonstrate a God if it's a personal God that interacts with the world. But anyhow, yeah, and then so that's our starting points in our worldview. But as far as like you and I and probably and my wife, we all agree that when you drop things, it falls towards the ground. When you throw a ball, you'll start going up and then at some point come back down. You know, it's Christians are probably just as much naturalistic as naturalists, but they add something else to it. I call it the special sauce, and that is the supernatural, you know, the Holy Spirit. And that's where I say, no, I don't think there's a reason to believe that even exists. But there would have been if these matches would have lit up.
Well, that would have been something. The only thing I'm also encouraged, and I just want to say to you and your followers, the way or your church, I think you've called them
the PineCreek Church,
your sheep at one point. Is that I think there's going to be a lot of people that call themselves Christians that are going to be surprised in my worldview. I mean, Jesus says as much, but didn't we prophesy in your name? Didn't we do many great works in your name? Depart from me, I never knew you. And I think there are a lot of people that are doing
flag waving phony Christians.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think there's a lot of people that are doing a better job loving their fellow man and living selflessly and charitably and loving their enemies, things that Jesus said people who follow him need to do. So I don't know if there's going to be some people surprised that, they never explicitly state the name of Jesus. I mean, it seems to say as much, when did we do these things? But anyway, appreciate you and appreciate what you're doing. I'll probably check in again sometime. I appreciate the conversation.
Okay. Yeah. Thanks for hopping on, and thank you for praying for me.
Absolutely. See you, Doug.
Bye. That was good. Doug Sheep knows his voice. There's a Daniel who wants to come in, but that's the same Daniel I talked to yesterday, right? I'll let you guys decide. Do you guys want me to talk to Daniel or not? Hang on, Daniel. I'm letting the people decide. It's a democracy today instead of a theocracy. Yeah, that was a good chat, Travis. We are not PineCreek followers. We are his examples. Alan Bird says, let him in. Let's see here. Or I could go back. Actually, I don't want to talk to Daniel. Daniel's the near-death experience guy, right? Too wooey for me, Daniel. Sorry. Too wooey. Travis, I know you're an atheist. Follow your heart, Doug. I'll let Travis in for a couple minutes. Experience guy, right? Yeah, turn off your audio there, Travis.
There we go. All right, good.
There you go.
So I wanted to make a prayer for you, Doug, to make a difference to our former guest. I wanted to pray in Satan's name that if you go like this on a lighter, it would cause your matches to burst into fire, therefore proving that Satan is Lord. Now, I don't know if you have faith, so I am trying to give you a demonstration to prove that Satan is real.
Well, hang on. Are you a Satanist?
Yes, I am. I have a little pentagram.
Okay,
here.
let's be fair then. Let's do what David did.
Okay.
Okay, so I want you to pray in the name of Satan to light these up. And
Okay.
if he lights it up, I will join the Satanic Church.
Now, well, you have to do it to my.
No. I want the same way as David did. Like he prayed to Jesus to light these on fire just through prayer, not with a lighter. Is Satan too chicken?
No, yeah. I'll pray.
Okay.
Dear Satan, which is really just me because I believe in myself, tell Doug that he needs to convince himself through faith that he needs to close his eyes, take off one of the matches, swipe it on the key strike.
I feel like I'm possessed.
Turn it into fire, light it to the top matches.
Well, I'm not doing that.
Burst it into flame. And if all this happens, anything is possible if you believe it could happen.
In Satan's name. You forgot to say
In
that.
Satan's name, ramen and meatballs. Your satanic lord, we prey on animal flesh. I don't know.
Hey, all flesh. That's a good segue to your channel. You want to give your meat thing?
I'm I don't know. I'm an atheist and a carnivore, which is an interesting.
He eats babies, ladies and gentlemen.
I eat baby chickens. They're contained in little shells and ribeyes and all sorts of meat. But I basically think humans are more carnivores than omnivores, and definitely not herbivores. And I think there's a scientific case to be made. I think you can live on meat alone and feel super awesome. And it's World Carnivore Month. Yay.
Oh, there's a Carnivore Month?
Yeah. We started it like in 2018. Dr. Sean Baker started a World Carnivore Month in January. Because you know what? Like everyone starts a new diet in January. The thing I love about diets is they're testable, right? So, like I could say like, oh, I think 80 to 90% of people are going to feel the best they've ever felt on a carnivore diet and be pretty confident in that. And yeah, I'll get some bad feedback every here and there, but for the most part, you don't need plants, you don't need carbs, you don't need a lot of the dumb arguments we have. And a lot of them are based on like Seventh-day Adventist religion from 1817. Like this church actually came from England.
Oh yeah, you're right. I had a Seventh-day Adventist friend, and yeah, he was a vegetarian. No, a vegan.
Yeah. Vegan, vegetarian, they're both like, they bridge that line. So I made a whole carnivore database and like a history database of like the last 2,000 years to kind of understand the flow of information. Because, like religion, nutrition is a consensus. It's built on, science and history and what we think we should eat and what we have. and lots of assumptions, right? Lots of axioms that we have. So, one of our assumptions, like carbohydrates, like exist in the food supply, therefore we should eat them.
But you're not against, you're not like the vegans are. Like vegans don't allow meat, but you do allow breads, right? Or no?
Well, no, not really. Like our strictest carnivores really eat meat, cheese, and eggs, and maybe and salt.
Don't you miss like a nice fresh warm bun? You just
Yeah, I do. And we actually had a new place nearby, like around the corner, that sells amazing sourdough.
Or
So,
why don't you do it then? Why don't you take a bite of a nice?
Because I feel terrible afterwards. Anytime I eat grains, anytime I eat sugar, I get heartburn, I get gas, GERD. I get constipated. I feel shitty. I gain weight. I get more flab in my belly. So it's like I know exactly. I've been doing keto diets for 8 or 9 years. So like I understand how my body reacts to foods. And it's like I can choose to eat crappy junk food, but I know I'm gonna feel like junk.
Do you track your calories at all or no?
No, never. I've never tracked my calories. I eat to hunger. I only eat. So last night I was kind of hungry. My wife and I cooked a big ribeye steak, but we aged it too long and it was kind of funky. So we didn't eat that much of it.
Don't eat funky meat. Yeah, that's a good.
Don't eat funky meat, right? But it was pretty good. Like we aged it 2 months and it was pretty good. But like we were like skeptical of the fat. Anyway, so I wasn't that full. So at like 11 p.m., I made 2 strips of bacon, an egg, like a little bit of ground beef, and then some cheese. And I was like, wow, this perfectly represents my diet.
What's your grocery bill for you and your wife per month?
So generally, I say you need 2 pounds of meat a day to eat. So it really comes down to what kind of meats you want to eat and what
that can get expensive if you're eating like prime ribs and stuff.
Right? Oh, absolutely. But you can also do, like the family packs of ground beef that are high fat. They're like 73% fat, and those are like $3 a pound. So you could get like, 4 or 5 pounds for your family and eat it the whole week. You get 24 eggs.
Because the steaks I like are really, they have to be prime.
Yeah, if you get prime, $12.
They can have 2 pounds per 4. That's 8 pounds a day times what is it? $10 a pound?
No. 2 pounds a day.
Yeah, 2 pounds a day per person, right?
With all your kids. Oh yeah.
Yeah, it's 8 pounds a day.
Yeah.
Times $10. It'd be $80 a day for me to have.
But the thing is, you would all get tired of the same steaks every day. So you would change it around.
Yeah.
But the thing is, the benefit, it seems like the cost, everyone's only thinking about the cost. You also have to think about like the opportunity cost, right? So if all my claims are true, that really like you're preventing yourself from getting obesity, you're preventing yourself from getting insulin resistance. Insulin resistance is the new heart disease, really, that everyone should be concerned about. So insulin resistance causes heart disease. Insulin resistance causes diabetes. Insulin resistance causes obesity. And what causes insulin resistance? Eating too much carbs with your like fats at like the same time. So the solution is to just cut out carbs, realize you can run on this completely different metabolic state called ketosis, and your body ends up needing less water. You become less addicted to carbohydrates because basically every time you eat them, you get this insulin response. You become like unsatiated basically because you're in this mode where you're burning your sugar and you're storing your fat.
Well, the last time we talked, I tried to eat nothing but meat for a day or two, and I think I cheated with blueberries. And then it's like, it was like a drug.
Oh, were you scared of something? That sounds like a vitamin C thing.
No, I just love blueberries. And
you just love blueberries?
Yeah, and the thing is, when my wife brings home groceries, unless you tell her, don't bring this into the house, I don't trust myself around blueberries. It's like, I love blueberries.
So that's the thing, right? The family environment really becomes kind of central to the diet, and it's another fascinating like interlude into religion, because like religion, like you're bound to go to the same church that your family does, and you generally eat the same meals that your family does. You all buy the same junk food. Your mom is buying you junk food, but it's really for her. Like you're saying like, yeah, it's fine for the kids, but really, it's for you. I don't have kids, but I know what that's like growing up. And I was always, begging for, the Lucky Charms and, the pure sugar in the cereal and stuff. I didn't know any better. And I didn't learn about all this until 2012. And I read this book up by Gary Taubes, and he's a science journalist. So he was like debunking cold fusion and like these other wild theories. And then he came into the nutrition field, and he really approached it from like this like rational journalistic science perspective. Like, what's wrong?
But are you scared that carnivorism is your new religion that gives you hope, meaning, and purpose?
I could make cases for all of those, but they're not supernatural. So like, and I'm always willing to be shown evidence that it doesn't work. And I've also heard of other anecdotes where it hasn't worked. So I'm already, there's like reason to be skeptical. And it's also like the ethnographic peoples, like the Inuit, Nenets. I made a giant list. I built a whole website about all this, but generally like the people we would want to ask these questions don't exist anymore. Like, can you really live off meat? Are you eating those plants because of a nutritional reason, or is it like a spice? And like those kind of distinctions matter, right? And my problem is like carbohydrates are emphasized overall, but then there's lots of other bad reasons to eat all the other things. Like the fiber reason is bad. The fruits and vegetables reason is bad. The nuts reason is really like saying they're indigestible, therefore they're better. That's the same reason.
So what do you say to a person who says, I just want a balanced diet? And
I say it's a meaningless term. It's kind of like believing in a god.
Like the person doesn't think there's anything wrong with having carbs as long as you don't overdo it, and nothing wrong with eating meat as long as you don't overdo it. Like, are they committing a sin by eating carbs?
I guess. The problem is, does that really work in practice, right? So
what if for them it does? What if they're not overweight, their blood tests are great?
Yeah, it does. And how can I really argue against that? But on the other hand, I can say, okay, maybe you think you're really healthy, but you still haven't tried carnivore, so you don't know the difference. Now, that's like a personal experience thing, so I can't really
but the Christians say that to me, like, okay, Doug,
no, I know.
Yeah, I know you're happy, but once you try Jesus, yeah, that's true.
And it's only a month, and it's not like I'm saying you're gonna get scurvy in 3 weeks. You're, like, even if without vitamin C, you can live for 3 months without any scurvy. But I have in my database all these Eskimo stories of an explorer who went up to live with the Eskimos for 5 years. And he literally spent his entire existence with them for over that time. And I felt like that was historical evidence that really jived with me, because he was saying,
hey,
for 4 months,
Travis,
I was only eating fish.
Yeah, Travis, why don't you just say your website name, because I got another person who I think I want to take a call from.
Excellent. Yeah, I love the last call. So keep this SE stuff up. I'm a huge fan. My website is www.carnyway.nyc, and it's not a .com, but I have a history database, a reasons to be carnivore database, all sorts of stuff.
I'm tempted to try it for a month. Really tempted.
I would love you to now. I want the SE community to really try out and test the claims of carnivore. Right? I'm saying it's testable.
But I think I have to kill my family first, because then they're going to bring in stuff to tempt me and lure me away from the true religion.
All right, but you're an adult. You can make up your own mind. I believe in your mental willpower. Now, Doug, if you're addicted
No blueberries.
to carbs, it's hard to imagine giving them up, right?
Yeah.
But I'm saying, like God, after 3 or 4 days of not believing in God, not thinking all the time that he's real, not thinking all the time that carbs are good and necessary
Well,
and make
no,
you feel the best.
that's not a
You're
good
gonna
analogy.
change your mind.
No, that's not a good analogy. What you're asking me to do by eating nothing but meat for 1 month is, I would say, to put it in religious terms, is like a Christian asking me to pray and read God's word for 1 hour a day for 1 month. That would be tough as well.
But I would agree that talking to yourself about a religion and reading about it would make it true, but it doesn't like make it feel subjectively true, because that's just how it works, right? It's like the same thing, like you look at someone's face 20 times and by like the 25th time you feel like they're a friend, like you recognize them. Like it's like that same kind of thing, right? And like that blurry distinction develops over time when you read something too much. Now, on the other hand, if you actually now, let's say I'm a carnivore, right? But now I'm gonna come control the U.S. government, and I want to change the dietary guidelines, which actually is something I want to do.
Okay, you know what? I made a decision. I'm going to try it starting today.
Awesome.
What's the date? January 8th. And I can even come on every day and track, and people can say how I'm doing. Now,
Awesome.
I'm not promising I'm going to be successful, but I'm going to give it a fair shake. So January 8th, 2021, PineCreek will only, so I can eat basically anything but carbs, right?
Well, yes. So if you eat anything with carbs, you're doing a ketogenic diet. If you eat anything but plants, you're doing a carnivore diet.
What do you want me to do?
I want you to do carnivore. I want you to go all the way. Now, that means any meat, any eggs, any cheese, and you got to think fat first. So you're not necessarily getting like the sirloin or like the leanest things. You want to think fat.
Okay, so eat more fat.
I want you to enjoy it. Yeah. And in terms of meals, you can try eating 3 meals a day. I think you're going to not be hungry enough for breakfast, and you're going to start cutting that out. And then you're going to be eating 2 meals a day, and you can even push it to 1 meal a day if you want.
Oh, sort of like intermittent fasting. Okay.
Yeah. So when you're in ketosis, you're not radically hungry all the time. Most people eat breakfast and it's full of carbs, right? Milk with lactose and cereal and orange juice and cereal bars and stuff. It's all carbs, right? So that spikes your insulin, and then you're hungry for the rest of the day. All right.
Okay.
Awesome.
So here's my contract. I signed it. PineCreek will eat only meat, eggs, and cheese for 30 days.
And so things to be wary of, you can salt all your stuff like as much as you want.
Lots of salt. Get the blood pressure up.
Yeah, salt is the good white powder to eat.
I wonder. Yeah, this will be very interesting. I might have to live stream every day to. My biggest concern is I might lose so much weight that I might get too good looking. Is that possible?
Yeah, that's possible. I mean, it might grow your hair back.
If I grow my hair back, I will start a church called the Carnivore Church.
That might also be a satanic miracle, so let's not get our hopes up. But
well, people will be able to see as the day. So I'm going to start like right now, not tomorrow.
Now, Doug, how do you feel right now? Like, just
don't get personal.
Is your digestion good? Like, do you have a little like?
Don't go there.
Okay. All right. So
we're not doing before and after pictures.
All right, good. You can take them and you can share them if you want. That's always my advice. It's like you're gonna regret not having them at the end. And,
okay, I see what you're saying, because I have done before and after pictures before, like when in my early 30s. In fact, I was, man, if you saw my body when I was 33, you would turn gay.
Maybe. I mean,
Okay, so I'll keep you apprised. I'll do something on social media at least once a day to let you know how I'm doing.
All right, I'll be around. I have that website. Do you understand what the link was? Was I clear enough?
Why don't you tweet it to me?
Okay.
And then I'll put it in the description box of this.
And there's Reddit, of course. I'm a moderator of Keto Science, so I've been basically like absorbed in this for 3 years. And I'm also moderator of Street Epistemology and all that bunch of atheism subreddits. But nutrition is my other main hobby, and the parallels between religion and nutrition are amazing because, you know, like I'm fighting against consensus here, right?
Yeah.
Everyone believes.
Well, the proof's in the pudding. Like
if fiber are good for you.
If it works for me,
eat lean meats and yeah. So I'm putting all that on its head. I'm saying most of it is wrong. It's based on myths, based on bad ideas, and because I'm saying I'm an atheist and I understand all these psychological biases, like I'm saying, like I'm hoping you understand like the landscape.
But I'm going to become irritable, right, for the next few days?
Will you become irritable? So the first 3 days you're adapting into ketosis. So basically your body is realizing there's no more carbohydrates.
I just want to know, am I going to be irritable?
You might have a little crankiness. Now it's
okay.
Like
I'm gonna have theist days the next few days while I'm cranky.
Oh, good. Maybe they'll finally win an argument.
Because then I can blame it on the diet, and then people will still like me.
Yep. I have another big piece of advice.
What's that?
Don't trust a fart.
Don't trust a fart? You talking about my family, or
you almost don't fart at all in this because you're not eating any fiber, and fiber ferments in your colon. It actually rots. You know how vegans always say like meat rots in your colon?
Yeah.
It's actually fiber that is feeding microbes.
Are you saying I will fart more or fart less?
No, you won't fart. So if you feel like you fart, like you need to fart, it might not be a fart.
Oh, you're saying run to the bathroom?
Yes.
Okay. In other words, I might really have like the brown to the back and the yellow to the front.
Yeah. It's just like it's a different experience because you're like used to like, you know, like you're in bed and you're like, like I could do it.
So I'll be live streaming and then all of a sudden I'll have to go, oh, excuse me. And then I'll like
yeah. No, it's not that serious. It's more like when you're I don't know, like when you just wake up or you're testing the waters. But yeah, it's like a very different experience. And so once you get really adapted into ketosis, you're gonna feel like a very jarring difference in how like your brain works and your like mental awakeness, your perception.
Yeah, I've done something. I don't know if I was as strict as you, but I've done something in the past, and I did notice the mental alertness. So.
Good. Yeah. So like the point of the carnivore diet is it keeps that state in you all the time. Now, if you're doing intermittent fasting, you kind of lose that when you eat a bunch of carbs and whatever regular food you eat. Now you're combining intermittent fasting with carnivore.
You know, if I just keep talking to you, time will go by and I'll already be on day 2 of my diet without eating.
All right, I'm gonna go. Enjoy your next call.
Yeah, thanks for calling in. But I will. I'm going to do it.
Awesome. I'm super happy to hear that. Bye.
Okay, see ya. I got to see what this is about. What's the name? Chad with the Flying Man worship song premiere. Oh yes. Are you going to sing me a song? Hang on a second. My dog's attacking someone.
Oh, okay. Can you play it on YouTube?
Can I play it on YouTube? Yes, I think I can. Or do you want to play it live?
No, I don't want to play it live. I just posted it. I think everyone will like it, but it's only like a minute and a half long.
Okay. Where did you post it?
I just put it in the chat here.
Oh, this chat. Okay. Let me see here.
Where it's called. Yeah.
Okay.
I posted it flying man. It's all for his glory. I don't want any praise for myself.
Yes, we don't want that. It's for the flying man. Let me. Now you might not be able to hear it, but the people in the actually no, you'll be able to hear it. Hang on a second. Okay, did you hear that? Oh, you're muted right now. Put your thumb up. Can you hear that?
Yeah.
Okay, and people in the live stream chat, can you hear it? I have it paused, but can you hear that a little bit? Okay, let me. So this is what I'm going to do, Chad. If you can still hear me, yeah, you can hear me, right? I'm going to play this, and then this will be my outro, and then I'm going to end the live stream. So this is like the PineCreek Variety Hour. Okay, so they can hear it. So let me make it look better. So we're not gonna. Oh, there's you. There's no swear words in it, right? It's a good, clean song for the family.
Yep, no swear words, very clean.
Okay.
The whole family can sing along.
Okay, here we go.
There was a man named Myron. He wrote about a creed, about a man who'd been flying years before for you and me. My great, 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 great grandpa, he did what no one can. He flew across the Grand Canyon. He was the flying man. There were 4 special diaries. Who wrote what others saw? But we don't know who wrote them. Oh yeah, they said he's also God. My great, 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 great grandpa, he did what no one can. He flew across the Grand Canyon. He was the flying man.
Ooh.
Oh, he was the flying man.
Well done. Excellent.
Flying man.
Thank you, Doug.
Oh yeah. Hey, hang on. I love the chord change right at the end there. That was great.
Oh,
You know what I'm talking about? Near the end?
lots of worship music experience went into that. Yes.
Oh, you've been a Christian for many years before?
Yeah, I was born and raised. I was a pastor's kid. Started playing in the worship band at age like 13.
Wow. No, that was very well done. We need to make that the official song of the Flying Man from now on. Okay.
Thank you.
Take care, Chad. Thanks for doing that for us.
No problem. See you guys.
See ya. That was really cool. You know what? I'm gonna make I'm gonna set a new precedent here. From now on, we'll make this into a variety show. If someone wants to make a nice, clean, wholesome song for, let's say, 2 minutes or less at the end of my live streams, have something ready. And you can do it the way Chad did it here and make it on YouTube first, so you don't have the pressure of it being live and something going wrong. Yeah, that was divine inspiration. Yeah, and we had a gentleman from, where was he from? Venezuela? South America somewhere, who played a song the other day too. The PineCreek Variety Hour. Someone needs to make a song about Doug's porn stash. No, that's too dangerous. You got to keep it wholesome. We don't want to scare the Christians or Muslims away. Although you might be able to do it tasteful. You know, like the Seinfeld episode where they talked about masturbation without saying the word masturbation. Can it be in a foreign language? Yeah, but then I won't be able to understand it. Chad is the man is just a tautological statement. Yeah. When you hear Chad, you think man. So get to work, you musically talented people. Or you, if you like poetry, you could do a 2-minute or a 1-minute poem. Whatever you guys want to do, just keep it clean, wholesome. It can be serious. It doesn't have to be funny. Look how I'm evolving. Yes, this is proof that evolution via common descent's true. Look what's PineCreek's coming to, the Variety Hour. I feel like Carol Burnett. You just got here, Vierte? I'm sorry. That means I have to go. My apologies to Jon Steingard, Joe Luehmann. They were scheduled to come on, but we ran out of time. Wish me luck on eating nothing but meat.